I swear that vet will pay for this humiliation. I promise.
What humiliation does the veterinarian have to pay for with you? Las Bandidas.
Tunatambulika kwa mandhari yetu ya kuvutia,
tamaduni zetu, ukarimu wetu, vyakula vyetu, uchapakazi,
na pia kwa sauti tofauti za watangazaji wetu waliobobea.
Dibengo niko hapa aka upcoming sponsor. Bila shaka hapa ni kama pedeshe, ma deep state pia vile cartels.
Tunaenzi talanta za pwani, tunakuza talanta za hapa kwetu nyumbani.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tuko mjengoni kama kawa na wanangu wengine wawili.
Usikose kutegea 103.1 Pwani FM, station ambayo itakupa fursa ya kupata uhondo kamili wa pwani na kuleta Wakenya pamoja.
Pwani FM, tafrija ya kipwani.
Well, indeed, a very good morning to you from wherever you're joining us this morning from across the country. And of course, here in Nairobi, my name is Marie Yambo, and this is Good Morning Kenya. Glad you could make time to start your day with us here. Now, we have a lot lined up for you in the news, including the resumption of exhumation of bodies in Shakahola Forest. And indeed, Parliament has been cancelled for today because of the National Prayer Day. We'll be giving you details of that and more, including sports and business within the bulletin. I'm not alone. I'm with Ram Aguko. Good morning to you.
And of course, we are coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. Remember, this is Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1. We are here to kickstart your morning on a high note. And even as we do that, remember, this particular day is one that we have all been waiting for, because we shall be heading over to Safari Park, where we are having the National Prayer Breakfast. Remember, this particular breakfast was supposed to be held on 31st of May, but it was rescheduled to today. Our colleague Victor Olo is on the other side, that is at Safari Park. I don't know what he has for us this morning. Victor, good morning to you.
Very well. Good morning, Marie and Ram, back in studio. Good morning to you, fellow Kenyans, from whichever part of the country you're watching us from. Of course, this is our live broadcast here from the Safari Park Hotel, where today we are celebrating the annual prayer breakfast organized by the National Assembly today under the leadership of Moses Wetangula as the speaker. Now, this is coming being the 20th edition of the National Prayer Breakfast, bringing leaders from across the political divide, religious leaders, and even other leaders from other sectors across the country to pray for this particular nation at a time when the country is coming to contend with a myriad of issues from elections that was just 9 months away ago, and the issues that now pertain to the legislative processes in our country. And this is going to be an amazing point for the leaders to come together, to put their hands together and if possible, bury the hatchet and celebrate and pray for this nation. As I mentioned earlier, this is coming for the 20th edition, having started way back in 2002 when President, the late Mwai Kibaki, being the president way back then, made it official that it was going to be an annual event bringing together all religious leaders. Now, the bottom line is, this is not a political function, but it is a function that brings together all elected leaders from across all the political divide. pride, as well as religious leaders, call them the Muslims, the Hindus, the Christians as well. And the main motive is to spread the good motive of this particular event, to bring the country together and to pray as a nation for the betterment of everything else. Now, important to note that this particular event was supposed to take place on 31st of May, but the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, made a communication to members of Parliament who were way back then on recess to bring it on this particular day, the 7th day of June, here at the Safari Park Hotel, and therefore is going to be an event attended by President William Ruto, being the first time he's attending this function as the President of this Republic, together with his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. Now, this is an event organized by the National Assembly, and the President is an invited guest. So that's important to note. It is organized by the National Assembly, but the President is an invited guest who will be the chief guest in this particular function. Now, it will be interesting to note as well that opposition leaders, that's the other side of Azimio, also communicated to the House yesterday during the session when they resumed from recess that the Azimio Brigade or leadership will not be attending this function. Now, that is contrary to the previous functions when the Azimio leaders would attend during the past regime. But this time around, the communication from Opiyo Wandayi, who is the minority whip in the National Assembly, made a communication that the Azimio Brigade and leadership will not be attending this particular function. Of course, everybody would argue that we have got some teethering issues that probably they need to be addressed before coming to this particular function. But that notwithstanding, we expect a total of more than 2,500 invited guests. That is as per the communication from the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, and everybody who is coming here is, an important guest. This is a point where everybody becomes equal before the Lord. The event will start at exactly 7, and the President will expect it here a few minutes later. That the function will also run until around 9:30 thereabout. And that is now how it's going to be. Now, at the background is the dome. As that, the way it has been, the dome is set. Guests are streaming in slowly, coming in, started to streaming here as early as 4 a.m. when the doors opened, with everything laid out, security taken care of here appropriately, because being a national function, security cannot be taken to chance. So at the background, perhaps just my cameraman can just give you an overview of what it looks like. It's a beautiful setup. It's a beautiful setup. It's a 2,000, approximately 3,000 capacity seater. That is expected to host these guests, people who are already coming in. And of course, we have got different venues and entrances and exits. As you can see, that is how it looks like. With the Kenyan flag draping the dome, security men in blue taking charge of the situation here at the Safari Park Hotel. A beautiful, beautiful place to be at this particular event. The President, as I said earlier, will be expected to be here any minute past 7 a.m. We always know that he's a very punctual man. He's very punctual. And we are likely to see also the parliamentary choir. Now, that is going to be the hallmark of this particular event. It has been like that over the years, where parliamentarians come, sing, rehearse, and entertain us. I mean, it's an amazing point to see our members of parliament entertaining Kenyans and singing. That is now they bring out their art and singing prowess. And it takes them time for them to practice and rehearse. And that is the way it's been here at the Safari Park Hotel. Now, before I take you back to the broadcasting hours, let me give you a slight background on how this National Prayer Breakfast started. Now, it all began way back. Who knew that His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka was the whole brain behind this National Prayer Breakfast? Now, that dates back to way back in 1987. Now, it happened that around 3,000 people. It started at a very small number of people, of course, with the religious leaders and a few members of the legislature who were actually way back then in 1987, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, was invited to attend the 34th U.S. National Prayer Breakfast. Now, that is how the idea came about. But it was not actualized until 1988 when David Musila, who is the actually deputy opposition, the likes of Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, were also in opposition and attended this particular function. But fast forward to way now in 2002, when the late President Mwai Kibaki saw it wise to resuscitate it and give it some life. Now, some members of the National Assembly were having a parliamentary prayer group. That's how it used to be. So they would converge in some hotels, for example, Boulevard Hotel. But with the time, the number grew and grew and grew. That's when the interest came about. And thereafter, when President Mwai Kibaki came into power, it all came to be a national prayer breakfast. So it has been interesting to note how this thing is going to be panning out here at the Safari Park Hotel. As I mentioned earlier, the president will be expected here anytime from 7 a.m. You know where to watch. KBC Channel 1, because we are going to give you bit by bit coverage, wall-to-wall coverage of how this event is going to be for the sake of our viewer. At the end of the day, it's all about us. Back to you in studio.
Yes, and even as you talk about this, it's important to note that, yes, prayers are important, but not everybody believes in prayers. There are those that were giving sentiments, and Maria, I know you were able to catch that when Honorable Jeanette Mohammed was saying that there's some things that God has given us the brains to solve, and it became a subject of discussion even online with Kenyans, some Kenyans saying, yes, we need to pray because as a country, we need an environment where solutions can be fostered, and with God by our side, we can succeed. Yet there are other Kenyans that are saying, you know what, God has given us the brains for us to solve our problems. What do you think about that, Marie? This prayer breakfast, it is an important event.
Of course it is. I mean, prayers are important, just not for us as a nation, but individually. So you cannot really say that we cannot do without prayers, or God has given us brains. But indeed, there are situations where you really need to just use your common sense that something needs to be done and not really pray about it, you know. But all said and done, it's a very auspicious day for us as Kenyans. Victor has given us, you know, the history of how the National Prayer Day began. I mean, it's something to be proud of, really, as a nation, that we can actually come together despite our religious backgrounds, you know, the Hindus, the Muslims, the Christians, and all, I know, people from all walks of life, you know, to come together and just, you know, pray and seek God's guidance, because without God, definitely, we can be, you know, things can be really difficult. So, it is important that we all pray, and definitely it will be a time that people reflect, which is really an important thing in life, really.
And today we are also expecting leaders to address some of the issues affecting Kenyans, live from Safari Park Hotel, where we shall be having that particular broadcast. You be sure to tune into that particular event right here. And as Victor has said, it is not a conversation that started yesterday. It started all the way in the 80s. Who would have known? Victor, that was quite an interesting discovery that you've made us know. You know, in the 80s, where Kalonzo Musyoka, the Honorable, came up with that particular conversation in this country. I love the fact that this is an event that we are going to be having every single time. But Victor, just from where you stand, do you believe that the conversation will be all right? Okay, all right. So, okay, we shall be engaging Victor in a few. But as we said earlier on, thank you for choosing KBC Good Morning Kenya. My name is Ram Maguko. Remember, also part of our broadcast, we shall be taking a look at our dailies. We shall be taking a look at the Daily Nation, in a few, the Standard and the Star. But before all of this, I hand you over to Marie Yambo for what is in the headlines.
Thank you so much, Ram. Definitely going back to Victor later on in our broadcast. My colleague Gladys Mungai is also there, and she'll be bringing you the news reporting as far as the National Prayer Day is concerned. Let's look at the news now, where the government has launched a program to open up access roads within the 800-acre land belonging to the controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, who spoke after launching the third phase of exhumation of bodies in the Shakahola forest, said the land will be subdivided into blocks of 100 acres to enable the operation be carried out properly. Kindiki also noted that the Shakahola forest will be converted into a national memorial site. Let's get the details.
The third phase of the exhumation exercise has officially commenced, with the Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kindiki Kithure, accompanied by security officials including Director of Criminal Investigations Mohamed Amin, officiating it. Even as the exhumation and search for victims of the heinous crimes at the Shakahola forest continue, the Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary noted their determination to prosecute the suspects after charging them with genocide, murder, and crimes against humanity, disclosing that they are working round the clock to gather watertight evidence that will put the perpetrators behind bars.
The government and the prosecution agencies of Kenya cannot afford to lose this case. We must convict, we must prosecute and have convicted Mr. Mackenzie and his collaborators. And for that reason, we are working extremely hard. I want to congratulate the investigators who are working in a multi-agency format in this prosecution-led investigations within the laws of our country to make sure that this case is won.
He reiterated that for the first time in Kenya's history, the judiciary will execute the case under the International Crimes Act.
For the first time in our country, we are going to have a prosecution by our local judicial institutions of international crimes. And therefore, we are giving effect to a number of our laws that have not been tested locally before.
The search inside the forest continues as he officially commissioned the construction of several security roads within the 50,000-acre Chakama Ranch, which will facilitate access into the vast Shakahola forest land.
A decision has been taken to open up security roads within Chakama Ranch so that we can be able to do roads and create compartments so that every 100 acres we are able to do the search and rescue, both for victims and for graves, in a methodical, systematic, scientific, and final manner.
The controversial Pastor Paul Mackenzie and 17 other suspects, including his wife, remain in custody as the main suspects to the deaths of the vast Shakahola forest and will be appearing at the Shanzu Law Courts tomorrow. Meanwhile, at the command center, the Regional County Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha announced that today's exercise saw 9 bodies exhumed, bringing the number of deaths to 251. Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kindiki Kithure says he shall not relent until the perpetrators of the Shakahola massacre are brought to book. From Shakahola Forest in Kilifi County, I am Ann Mburu.
Thank you so much, Ann Mburu, for that detailed report. Of course, we'll be bringing you details of that developing stories in our subsequent bulletins. Now, moving on to the KEMSA scandal, where former Public Health Principal Secretary Josephine Mburu has distanced herself from the 3.7 billion shillings Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA scandal that earned her dismissal. Mburu, who appeared before the Senate Health Committee, said that executive orders had reduced her functions from 13 to 7, and she was not in any way tasked with procuring medical equipment under her docket.
Amid confusion on who should be held accountable over the 3.7 billion shillings anti-mosquito net scandal, former Health Principal Secretary Josephine Mburu sought to clear her name before the Senate Health Committee over this scandal that saw her sacked barely 6 months into office.
What is the role of the board and the CEO, and what is your role as the PS, which that responsibility falls under?
Involvement in the process, I was not involved in the process because already the process had started.
Mburu absolved herself of any blame, further urging senators to expedite their investigations to unearth the real culprits.
Deep down, I would like to know what is this thing he was told about Josephine did, so that it comes out, so that the Wanjiku can judge me.
According to the former Principal Secretary, who claimed that she did not interfere with the tendering process, the role fell squarely in the docket of her former colleague in the ministry, Engineer Peter Tum, who was recently moved to the Ministry of Sports in the recent reshuffle.
Initially, I was supposed to be the chair when the order was won, but when it was split, the CS Wafula had already written a letter to the GF that the chairman of GF is the chairman of KCM, the Kenya Coordinating Mechanism of GF is PS Tum.
The committee also grilled suspended KEMSA CEO Terry Ramadhani and the chair Daniel Rono to ascertain if mistakes in the procurement process were enough to cancel the tender and if the government lost monies in the process.
Are you telling this committee that you were not aware of the technical requirements of the tender when you go through? Were you not given a brief by the management that this is a tender? It was advertised on this particular day, it was open on this particular day.
The brief I got was when I requested offer is that tender is when I was told a team of evaluation team had been appointed jointly with the ministry to carry out the evaluation of the tender.
No loss of public funds, because there can be no loss if there is no award. You see, Chair, this process was not complete at the point of discussions even with Global Fund, because a procurement process is completed either by awarding or by terminating.
In the month of April, President William Ruto sacked the embattled PS and the entire KEMSA board over the botched medical tender on anti-malaria nets.
Gladys Mungai reporting there. Now, First Lady Rachel Ruto has emphasized the need for women to take an active role in decision and policy making for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal, that is the SDGs. The First Lady, who cycled for 10.8 kilometers from State House Nairobi to the United Nations office, noted that cycling was in line with SDG 11 and 13 on efficient means of transportation and climate action of achieving net zero carbon emissions.
The 5-day meeting kicked off Monday, bringing together delegations from 193 member states of the UN Habitat Assembly. President William Ruto, who officially opened the assembly, noted the steady increase in urban populations was presenting a challenge as well as opportunities for national economic and urban planning and development.
A key barrier to our aspiration for sustainable urbanization happens to be the very impediment to efficient, sustainable climate action in the global South and Africa, and that is sufficient and affordable financing. As a result, we are unable to effectively pursue all the opportunities in sustainable urbanization and leverage them to promote the broader agenda of economic transformation, climate action, and sustainable development.
His sentiments echoed by the Assembly's Executive Director Maimouna Maud Sharif, who called on member states to prioritize sustainable development and advance inclusive urban recovery frameworks that empower cities to respond to urban crises and support national recovery efforts.
As you know firsthand, those of us from humble beginnings understand how adequate housing and urbanization can deliver a better quality of life.
Let us strive to reverse the trend with well-managed and planned urbanization that ensures sustainable development. Good governance dictates that our technocrats in the relevant disciplines and professions must up their acts to deliver on the promises that we made to our people. Water and sanitation services.
While remaining alive to climate change and global warming effects, President Ruto emphasized on the need for countries drawn from global north and south to work together as partners, noting that none is immune to the impact of climate change.
So long as we continue to imagine that this is going to be sorted out by aid or by assisting this country versus that country, there is no country here that is going to assist the other. The North is going to assist the South. The South is not going to assist the North. We can only work together.
In addition, the president called upon African countries to embrace and make use of green energy, noting that the continent has unexploited resources. It's the hope of the over 190 state delegations in attendance here today that by the time the 5-day conference comes to an end, they will have reached practical solutions in the run-up to the realization of the Urban Africa agenda.
That report by Yusuf Farah brings us to a fast break of the program, but we'll be back with more.
Sasa unaweza kupokea stesheni ya KBC Eastern Service kwa njia iliyomurwa baada ya KBC kuboresha na kuwekeza mitambo mipya ya kisasa ya kupeperusha matangazo. Pata matangazo kwa lugha ya Burji kila siku kuanzia saa 11 asubuhi hadi saa 4 asubuhi. Rendile Service itakuwa hewani kuanzia saa 4 asubuhi hadi saa 9 jioni. Kisha matangazo kupitia lugha ya Kiborana itachukua usukani kuanzia saa 9 hadi saa 2 usiku. Kutufungia jamvi ni Turukana Service watakaopeperusha matangazo yao kuanzia saa 2 usiku hadi saa 6 usiku. KBC Eastern Service inapatikana Lodwar na maeneo yaliyo karibu kupitia 98.3 FM. Na kwa wasikilizaji wa Burji, Rendile na Borana waliomo Marsabit na maeneo jirani, KBC Eastern Service inapatikana kwa mita bendi 98.7 FM.
그때 그냥 집어넣어 버리지 그랬냐고. 내 구단구 지인들이 생 난리다 그냥 난리. 아주 난리 부르스를 쳐요.
네. 그러니까 좀 잠자코 좀 계시라고. 제가 몇 번을 말씀드려야 됐지.
현재 스코어 지고 있지만 금방 동점 가고 역전 갑니다.
아니 우린 그래도 생각해서 온 건데 그렇게 말씀하시면 안 되죠.
우리 마음이 쉽지 않아서 그러잖아요.
이러고도 계신 게 이 신부님께서 나쁜 짓 했다고 단정 짓는 거예요. 그런 생각까지 모두 미사 집전하고 싶지 않아요.
그랬습니다.
따르고 있습니까?
우리들은 따릅니다.
Settle down everyone. My name is Mr. Sanjay and I'm your new business teacher.
And what do we say? Charity begins at home.
In Kinyanjui's case, it is robbery, not charity.
Continue suggesting. Me Julia Molo, I am not contributing anything. Contribution yangu atoe kwa deni.
Ashidang, my teacher is divorced. Ashidang, my teacher is Blonsky.
Utamu wa relationship is when I, the man, provide and protect.
Never and never again unless I'm richer than the man.
But I say at home mom with maids. Ndio nikisikia kwenda kudunda, woo, I just bounce.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the program. This is Good Morning Kenya, indeed. And today is the National Prayer Day, where our very own Victor Law is at the Safari Park Hotel. He will be updating us on what is happening there very soon. So I want to hand it over to Victor to bring us up to speed with what is happening at the Safari Park Hotel. Victor, so what's going on?
Live from Safari Park Hotel on this beautiful day, 7th day of June 2023, the National Prayer Breakfast organized by the National Assembly. The chief guest is the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, together with his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. But hey, this particular function cannot be complete without leaders who are actually coming here under the theme Reconciliation of God and man. Mheshimiwa, it's an interesting theme that as members of parliament you've chosen this time around. First of all, welcome, and you're live on KBC Channel 1.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by saying this is a very important function in our parliamentary calendar, which we usually hold annually, and I think we are here for reconciliation. And it is time for Kenyans to start forgiving each other. But I'm not seeing it happening a lot in the upper part of the leadership. And I would like to ask, to urge our president to listen to the leaders of opposition at the moment, because you can listen too much from your group, but if you are not reconciling with the leader of opposition who commands almost half of what he cannot, I think it's a big problem, and it's time we start reconciling and moving forward as Kenyans. Kenya belongs to all of us, not the people who are elected, but also people who also lost elections. And that's why there is need for reconciliation. And I'm not happy when I'm not seeing leaders of Azimio not around, because there are some issues we have not sorted through by partisan talks. Yes.
By the way, he is called CNN, or Nguna Mwasia, Mwingi West Member of Parliament. All right. So, how important is this function? Politics aside, how important is this function today?
It is very important because some of members of parliament who have been legislating on different pieces of proposals, we've not been able to come together. Maybe these prayers are going to give us an insight on how we can reconcile. Maybe some of the verses we are going to listen today will soften our stance against some of the things we have been witnessing, like especially the finance bill, which is contentious to Kenyans. We need to sit down and reconcile. We need to change our attitude towards each other, and maybe we discuss and see whether there are some amendments we can make, so for the good of Kenyans, not for the good of the executive or the government itself.
It's the themed reconciliation between man and God. So how are you going to reconcile? Because members of parliament, Kenyans are speaking, the cost of living is so high, politics is still playing the center stage. How are you as members of parliament going to reconcile the whole situation for the Kenyans to feel some ease in their pockets?
I listened yesterday, the leader of majority and the leader of minority actually talking, and it was interesting to see what verses of the Bible we are going to extract today and listen. Maybe if they listen and they sit down and reason together, we may have a kind of a change of a situation. And I still feel finance bill, some of the pieces are good, but leadership have not been open to amendments. These are the things we want to propose after this prayer and breakfast. And I know most of the messages today from the people of God, it will be about reconciliation, which if a good leader will listen, we'll be able to have what we call reconciliation kind of tone, and I know we will achieve a lot if we listen to one another. Yes.
This function comes, this is the 20th edition of this particular function. Of course, President Moi Kibaki started it all, may he rest in peace. But then now, coming to the 20th edition, I'm told that you are among the choir team of the National Assembly.
Yes, I'll be singing. I sing 10, and I'm looking forward to entertaining guests who will be around. I'm part of the parliamentary choir, and I'm looking forward for this.
What is the preparation kind of, the behind the scenes?
We have been preparing in Parliament, and we have a choir conductor, of course, Honorable Chepkonga is the one who will be coordinating us, and we are looking forward. Personally, I'll be a drummist. I'm the one who's going to play the drum. Yes. Okay. So I'm looking forward to an eventful and also a colorful event.
All right.
Yes.
Weshimura, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. All right, that is, he calls himself CNN. Charles Nguna Mosia.
Charles Nguna, Member of Parliament, Mwingi West.
All the best, Mheshimiwa. Of course, we'll be watching to see how you're going to do, because I also did bass way back in campus. I'm a good singer. All right, thank you, Mheshimiwa. All right, that is Asante Thani. All right, so that is Charles Ngusia, member of Kitui West Mwingi, member of Parliament. Talking matters reconciliation. The theme is reconciliation of man and God, and taking center stage. It's going to be important to note how it's going to be moving forward, because now in the next few minutes things will be rolling, and everything will be taking place with members of Parliament arriving here in their numbers. Remember, opposition said that they are going to come, but the top leadership of Azimio will not be attending this function. So it will be interesting to see how this whole function is going to take place. As it is, everything is set and ready for us. We'll be here to keep our eye on this particular function, and as I always said, we are going to give you bit-to-bit coverage of this function. KBC is a channel to watch. Back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that update on what's happening at the Safari Park National Prayer Day. He was speaking to Mwingi West, member of Parliament, that is Charles Nguna, just giving us a brief of what has been happening also behind the scenes in as far as the preparation as the choir, the parliamentary, the National Assembly choir that will actually be entertaining the guests there during the National Prayer Day, and just emphasizing the need for reconciliation, really, among the members of Parliament to be able to move things forward in as far as, development is concerned in the country. So away from that, we still continue with the news, but we will be taking you back to Safari Park when we need to. But Kahawa Law Court has given the prosecution until the 5th of September 2023 to get the results of the DNA samples taken from 12 police officers from the disbanded Special Service Unit. The officers are suspected of being behind the disappearance of 2 Indian nationals and their Kenyan taxi driver on the 22nd of July 2022. And as Ruth Wamboi now reports, the anticipated results from the DNA samples will inform the decision on whether to charge or drop charges by the prosecution against the officers.
Delivering a ruling on a suit filed by Busia Senator Okiya Omtata last Friday, challenging the constitutionality of the finance bill, Justice Sedgwick Ongoni did not bar the National Assembly from discussing the bill and transmitting it to President William Ruto for his assent. The judge instead directed Omtata and his co-petitioners to serve the Speaker of the National Assembly, CS Treasury, and the Attorney General with the suit papers within 3 days, and that the state officials respond within 7 days. Senator Omtata, however, says the date given by the High Court may be overtaken by events. Elsewhere, 2 men will be detained for 4 days pending completion of investigations into their threats to kill.
And he cooperated in searching and took everything that they needed for investigation. And those materials are in their custody.
Musara Kahinga Siongo and Alvin Zoma Mudhami are accused of sending threatening messages to kill a city businessman, Cheetah Baby alias CJ, and extortion over undisclosed reasons.
Have been threats to lives of the complainant, and the IO wishes to verify the information from the cybercrime unit by extraction of data, and for that reason alone, I will allow the application, but I will allow the application for only 4 days.
The magistrate reserved the ruling for Friday, 9th June 2023. And the High Court has suspended the elections of Turkana County chapter of the Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry over the existence of 2 lists of members. Lady Justice Josephine Mongare directed that the election be postponed until the suit filed by the outgoing chairperson Pius Ewoton and Deputy Joseph Losuru is determined.
Now, the Commission on Administrative Justice, that is the CAJ, has called on Kenyans to volunteer information regarding alleged corruption practices at the Department of Immigration if it is to take concrete steps in aiding the Ministry of Interior to eliminate complaints related to passport issuance. Now, CAJ Chairperson Florence Kajojo said lack of testimonials by complainants was to blame for inaction on corruption allegations at the passport issuance desk. The Commission had initiated investigations into 9 cases submitted by different complainants, but hit a snag after they failed to present tangible evidence.
According to government data, 426,137 passports were issued in 2022, which was an increase of 55.9% from 2021. However, the heightened demand for passports quickly gave rise to perennial delays in applications and faulty printers compounded by unavailability of booklets.
The Office of the Ombudsman noted allegations suggesting that the Department of Immigration was overcharging citizens for passport services. We've had very many complaints from Kenyans, so the problems have been historical.
Yes, we do agree with you that there are anomalies, there are issues, malpractices in our services, in our interaction and contact with our clients.
At the launch of an investigation report on alleged corruption in the issuance of passports at the Department of Immigration, Commission on Administrative Justice said lack of testimonials by complainants was blamed as the reason for inaction.
The issue of corruption will engage EACC, but we also need Kenyans to come out about the brokers and also the corruption around your offices. We are going to work together because that is our business.
The CAJ initiated investigations initiated by 9 complainants whose issues were substantiated by the Commission. The department lacked a series of customer redress mechanisms made worse by bureaucratic procurement procedures.
This issue of which are being addressed here, they are just very recent phenomenon. So when we are even talking about policy guidelines in dealing with issues which should not be there, I don't think we need to be going to that direction.
As a public officer, I beg you, Mr. Munyao, can you admit you have a problem within the immigration department? Because you cannot say that you don't require policy guidelines, yet you are setting up a system that then there are emerging challenges like refund mechanism.
Even though Director Munyao is saying that they don't need the procedures for these processes because they are things that never happen. But that is the whole point. They never happened, but they have now happened.
On May the 31st of 2023, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki promised to clear backlogs within 21 days, something the Commission applauds.
We are ready and we are committed to implement every recommendation that you have made.
We appreciate that the Cabinet Secretary for Interior has recognized the problems within the Immigration Department, is already taken steps to deal with the challenges that are within the department.
Let's go to the counties now, where Nakuru County Commissioner Layford Kibara has assured the residents of Nakuru of their security following a spate of muggings and armed robberies in Ronda and Kaptembo areas. More on this and other stories in our County News Roundup.
Nakuru County Commissioner, who regretted that 3 people had been killed in the week-long terror instigated by gangs, says a sweeping overhaul of security managers in the area is complete and the situation is contained.
It is not going to be business as usual. We also need information from our members of the public.
Ninaomba wananchi watulie na waendelee na kazi zao wakijua tumechukua hiyo jukumu kuhakikisha kuna amani.
Meanwhile, detectives from Limuru Sub-County have recovered a stolen truck in Naivasha, Nakuru County that was reported stolen on Sunday night. While confirming the incident, Limuru Sub-County Police Commander Philip Mwanya assured the residents that police are still pursuing the leads to recover the other 2 stolen vehicles.
Ile mtu yote kuna information atusaidie, lakini so far so good. Watu wetu kwa ground na tuko na hakika hizo magari tutapata.
Elsewhere, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi has called upon various leaders in the Western region to make efforts in rescuing the boy child from social vices, claiming that they are the future leaders.
So we must have a male conversation. We cannot and we must not leave that male conversation. For God made male and
actually the boy child needs.
And from the counties, we now want to join Victor once again, who is at the Safari Park Hotel, where the National Prayer Day is already ongoing, not started yet, but activities there are still ongoing. So Victor, do bring us up to speed with what is happening there.
All right, so this particular function can never be complete without the religious leaders here. And here at the venue, I have Hosea Kosgei, Bethel Kosgei, who is a religious leader here in Nairobi. And perhaps just to tell us how you're feeling today. And, you know, this particular function, as I said, can never be complete without religious leaders. We've come a long way as a nation. What do you make of this function today?
Wow, I celebrate this function, and allow me just to say my name again, Reverend Bethel Koske, a leader of a multi-destination mission Turkana. And I celebrate this because without prayer, a nation cannot stand. People coming together like this, it's not just a good moment for us as a people, but it's also something that is good before God. Yeah. And it makes and creates an environment for smooth running and operations of things that makes a nation and contributes to the progress of the nation. You know, I believe that there are so many things that we would wish to do, but we won't be able to do if God does not come through for us and help us in his own way, giving us health and strength, giving us peace, giving us agreement, giving us tolerance with each other, you know, and giving us that coexistence as a nation. Yes. Even for us who interact with people from all scopes and, you know, backgrounds in this nation, sometimes we even reach to the communities, as I mentioned, leader of MDM Turkana, and we reach to the Turkana people. That's a community I don't come from. Why is it possible to interact with such people? It's because of God. And how do we engage God? Through prayers such as this we're experiencing today.
Please crack for me. The reconciliation theme today is reconciliation, man and God.
Yes, between man and God. And thankfully, when there is reconciliation between man and God, that is vertical. The horizontal is obvious between man and man, and that is what we need as we reconcile people. In fact, church is given and called to what we call reconciling people to God. And thankfully it becomes automatic that with that there'll be reconciliation between people. We've heard of warring communities, we've heard of infightings between people, we've heard of wars even in other nations. Thank God we are a little bit safe and away from those serious wars, but we have our little challenges here and there. You know what, we talk of reconciliation and peace. The secret to it is prayer such as we are having in this national breakfast.
Reverend, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, that was Reverend. He's talked about issues to the Turkana reconciliation with man and God. But as we talk about religious leaders, we also have got our leaders here. And just joining the studio, please just Mheshimiwa. First of all, good morning and welcome to KBC Channel 1.
Thank you.
The theme today is reconciliation, man and God. How is this theme important now that we are just 9 months away from politics, but it's still heated?
Reconciliation is what we need today, tomorrow, and even the day after. Mainly because we are just from elections and people have not recovered. Some people still feel hurt and others feel left alone and neglected. So reconciliation is at the political level, at the national level, even for our opposition members of parliament and even opposition leader and us ruling party, we need to see how we can reconcile and move together as a country. The most important thing for us is to have one nation, one people and one Kenya. And if we reconcile, then unity will be there. That is why the theme reconciliation is important. And reconciliation comes with forgiveness. So if people forgive each other, reconcile and move together as a nation, we'll be able to do all development, we'll be able to have dialogue, we'll be able to sit together and reason together and see how best this country can move on. That is what even our president stands for and what is always looking forward to. And that is why I am in that organizing committee and I am also playing a big role there. And that is why we said this is the theme we need for this year. Again, beyond the prayer day and the nation and the political whatever, at the family level, people need reconciliation. You've seen people committing suicide, husbands killing wives, children killing parents, and spouses killing one another. So reconciliation is relevant at every level in our life and even between the different ethnic groups. You know very well for many years, Kenya is we are a very tribal country and people have been fighting with, different ethnic groups have been fighting. And if we reconcile, then that gives us hope that there'll be peace and peaceful coexistence. At the end of the day, that is what we are looking forward to, and that is our prayer, that this nation stays together and moves together as one nation. And then, if we pray together, we have these prayers once in a year. If we pray together, the family that prays together stays together. The nation that prays together stays together. So God hears our prayers. We were affected by the drought. God has given us the rain. We still have a lot of challenges. We need to come together and pray for all these challenges. I am happy that members of the parliament from the opposition side are with us also, although their principals are not there.
Members of opposition,
yes, she's here. She's here together with many others. Karibu Mheshimiwa, just
actually, she's the one who's called you that members of opposition. You can see that leaders are together. I mean, why not Kenyans? Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we've just been talking about the issue of reconciliation, and she's talked so passionate about reconciliation, man and God. What do you make of that theme?
Man and God. Okay. First of all, man and God, I think there's a lot of confusion. Man depends on religious institutions and leaders to guide them. And of course, right now, a lot of people are bothered spiritually with what is happening in Shakahola, with Mackenzie leading people to starve to go and meet Jesus. I think we have all these Christian channels. We need to have a lot more Christian channels talking and teaching people about the Bible, the Quran, the Gita Bhagwan, and just spirituality in general. I think there's a problem there because it's despair and poverty that you don't want this world anymore. You want to just go away to meet God because you're suffering probably. But then I've also seen people who are rich selling their wealth to go. So we also have mental health issues that we need to deal with. I feel that the whole area, we need to actually send counselors to the whole area and have open days for people to talk, because people are feeling what has happened in Shakahola and not having a place to dissect it and to understand it and to deal with it emotionally and spiritually. Kenya reconciliation requires that we have an honest conversation and we make honest changes.
Yes. We've not seen Azimio leaders here, Mheshimiwa. It's a point to reconcile.
Hold on, I'm an Azimio leader, so I'm here with the blessings of my party leader. All right, my party leader not coming. I think it is good to be spiritually honest. All right, there's no point in coming here and your heart doesn't feel you're in the right place. Remember, when 2 or 3 people come together, then God is there. All right? God has said that. It's in the Bible. You come together, you pray together, and I'm there. But if you're praying together with feelings that these people don't see any good in me, they insult me all the time, they don't see my value, then obviously he feels I don't want to be there. So we have to respect his decision, all right? And I feel that is a challenge for the government to work on ensuring that we have proper reconciliation. We work together for the greater good of this country. Because let me tell you, when you have won an election in Kenya with 200,000 votes, right? And it's still questionable whether it was free, fair and credible, irrespective of the stages we went through constitutionally. I think it's important that you come together, and that's what Uhuru did in his wisdom. Let's work together. Let's build this country. And coming together to build the country doesn't make it wrong. Jesus himself had disciples. They probably didn't agree on everything, but they agreed on one thing: let us spread the word. So let us agree on one thing: let us build Kenya. And let us agree that when we disagree, it is not that we hate each other, it's that we have different opinions. But it's also good to listen. And I hope that when we go through this finance bill, sentiments of Kenyans will have been taken into account so that we can forge ahead. I believe that it's a very challenging time to be able to raise money for the government, especially considering the debt that we have. And the vision of good housing, the vision of making sure we have food security, manufacturing, all good visions. Everybody wants the good for this country. So all I would say is, when we reconcile, we have to have honest spirits.
On a personal level, how important is this function to you? The President Mwai Kibaki started it all 20 years ago. We are in the 20th edition. How important is it to you? You've survived political, turbulence, and here today.
I think what I'm looking for with reconciliation, we have to have sincerity. I can't relate to tribalism. I'm half Greek, quarter Dutch, and quarter Kikuyu, and I'm Kenyan. And for me, I don't understand tribalism. When I see somebody, I don't know whether you are Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Luo, Luya. All I know is that you're a person. I want to know who the soul is. And I feel that everybody has something good to offer. That's why God has granted them life. So let us respect that soul has something to teach you. And politics doesn't have to divide us, right? I also would love to see reconciliation in the family units, because what is happening right now, we've got a huge number of single mothers, and that's because basically men are running away from responsibility, and a lot of women are suffering there with their children. So let's reconcile that as well. Let's reconcile public service. People go to stations or government offices and don't feel they're served well. Don't go into public office just to make money. Go in there to serve the people. So if we're going to have a reconciliatory spirit, we have to know that with reconciliation there were differences. That's why we're reconciling. So what are we going to put in place in terms of structures to eliminate what led to the differences? Yeah. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. All right, that is Esther Passaris, Nairobi woman representative, just talking about issue to do reconciliation. And of course, I'm joined by my colleague Gladys Mungai. Mheshimiwa, Gladys is going to take charge of this particular function and is going to be in Kiswahili this time around. I don't know what... in Kiswahili. Okay, probably Mheshimiwa, just very quickly, before Fred Ohuta is here with me. Mheshimiwa, good morning. First of all, this particular function is coming at a time that the country is facing a lot of problems. I don't know what's your take on that. First of all, good morning. You're live on KBC.
Even the Bible says, the people who are called by God's name, who would gather together and seek his face, God will hear them from heaven and he will heal the nation. And that's the reason why we are here today, to meet as a people of Kenya. And prayers bring reconciliation. There's nothing much that we are seeking today. Not power, not personality. We are coming here to kneel before God, to ask God to heal our nation. We know have a lot of challenges, but without a God in our presence, as a country, we will suffer.
I'm trying to wonder, Mheshimiwa, what do you make of this finance bill? It's going through the processes, and of course the press is quite, passionate about it. What's your take on it? Kenyans are talking. I don't know how the ground is talking.
It's political. It is politicized. People do not really have time to read about the finance bill, because there are two camps: the government and the opposition. That's how people have taken this financial bill. There's a lot of good stuff, but I would want to encourage Kenyans that we do not really need to talk to the funerals or the publics. People need to get together and read the bill and be able, if there will be some amendment that is needed, then they will be allowed on the floor of the House. As you know, we have two separate powers. We have judiciary, and we have parliamentary, and we have the executive. The executive have already presented the financial bill. What is remaining now is for the members of parliament to come through their committee and the entire membership of the National Assembly. And if there's something that they feel strongly that will be able to infringe in the running of the country, then that could be amended. But if there is nothing, and they know that it can be able to propel our country to another level, then they should remove out politics. Politics will take Kenya nowhere, and especially hard politics, where people want to be known rhetorically outside there with their followers that we are the one who matters. That will not help our country. We as Kenyans and as a leader, we must reason together. We need to come. This is the right time. And we have seen it all over the world, even in a country like America, when there is challenges. And this challenge that we have in Kenya, it is not only initiated by the president. You know, we have just come out from the COVID. Maybe not yet. People have suffered, and it is up to us, Kenya, now to sit back and think, now, how do we propel our country together? It's not about chest thumping or thinking who is bigger, which tribe are you coming from, which religions are you coming from. And that's why, as for today, we are coming here for prayers to seek intervention from God. Some of the things that we cannot change, God can change it for us.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. I'll let you go, and all the best. Okay, all right. That's how it is today. Religious leaders coming on board, political leaders, and even head of parastatals coming here. It's a moment of all Kenyans to come and just to reflect and pray. Being the 20th edition of this prayer breakfast, it's going to be an important day for us as Kenyans. This is a point that I now bring in my colleague Gladys Bungai to take over the Kiswahili segment. Gladys, perhaps you just join me. In Kiswahili, kwanza hujambo. Let me just first ask you a question as a Kenyan, not as a journalist, my colleague. How important is this occasion for you? You've done this quite sometimes. How important is this for you, and how different is it in Kiswahili, if you can?
Kutokana na kwamba mimi ni bilingual, lakini mtazamaji ni ruhusu nizungumze kwa lugha ya Kiswahili, na mwenzangu Victor ameniuliza pengine umuhimu wa maombi haya, kando na kwamba mimi ni mwanahabari. Nafikiri maombi haya yanajiri wakati ambapo taifa linafaa kuungana, kutokana na kwamba tayari tumegawanyika, sio sana ilivyokuwa katika miaka ya awali, lakini ilivyokuwa kwa sasa ni kwamba taifa bado halijaungana. Na maombi haya tuseme kwamba wito wake ni kwamba taifa liungane, watu wakutane, kuwe na masuala ya uwiano, kuzungumza na Mwenyezi Mungu, na pia kwa Wakenya kuzungumza kati yetu, viongozi na vile vile wananchi wa ngazi za chini. Na ilivyokuwa kwa sasa ni kwamba Victor, maombi haya yatakuwa naongozwa na Rais William Ruto, na tayari spika wa bunge la kitaifa na bunge la seneti wameshafika katika hafla hii katika huu uwanja wa Safari Park, na tunatarajia kwamba pengine tu mida ya saa 2 hivi, zimesalia dakika za kuhesabu, shughuli hii itakuwa inaanza rasmi. Lakini kama ulivyoniuliza, nafahamu kwamba binafsi yangu kama Mkenya, wakati umefika kwa watu tu, baadhi ya viongozi na wananchi kuzungumza na tuone jinsi ambavyo pengine tutakuwa tunalipeleka taifa hili mbele. Naomba ni mzungumzie Sheikh Kinywa. Karibu sana, tuko mbashara katika studio zetu za KBC. Mtazamaji, na jinsi ambavyo unafahamu ni kwamba shughuli hii kwa njia kubwa tu itakuwa inaongozwa na viongozi wa kidini. Na ni nani aliye bora zaidi kutuelimisha kuhusiana na masuala pengine yanatarajiwa hapa, isipokuwa baadhi ya viongozi wa kidini ambao watakuwa katika hafla hii. Shekenywa, tuko mbashara katika runinga ya KBC Channel 1. Tueleze pengine kama kiongozi wa kidini, matarajio yako katika maombi ya siku ya leo ni yapi?
Na shukrani sana. Kwa hakika matarajio yangu na wanadini wengi ni kwa kuwa baada ya siku ya leo huenda especially wanasiasa wakaweza kuridhiana, wakaweza kuiana, labda wale wana misimamo mikali wakapunguza misimamo yao. Ndio jambo ambalo kama tunatarajia huenda likafanyika siku ya leo. Naam. Kwa sababu ukiangalia kwa mfano wanasiasa wa mrengo wa upinzani wengi wamesusia shughuli na hafla ya leo ndio mara ya kwanza. Kwa hivyo tunataraji na tuomba kwa kuwa labda Rais William Samoei Ruto huenda akaweza kuyazungumzia masala haya na akaweza kuwaleta karibu na akatatua matatizo yalikuwa baina yao.
Naam. Nataraji kwamba viongozi wa kidini pengine mtakuwa mnanena na Wakenya kwa njia moja ama nyingine. Wakenya watarajie kusikia nini kutoka kwenu, ikizingatiwa kwamba kama ulivyosema kwamba tayari upinzani umeshatoa agizo kwa wabunge wake kutofika katika hafla hii, licha ya kwamba tayari baadhi yao
Sasa unaweza kupokea stesheni ya KBC Eastern Service kwa njia iliyomurwa baada ya KBC kuboresha na kuwekeza mitambo mipya ya kisasa ya kupeperusha matangazo. Pata matangazo kwa lugha ya Burji kila siku kuanzia saa 11 asubuhi hadi saa 4 asubuhi. Rendile Service itakuwa hewani kuanzia saa 4 asubuhi hadi saa 9 jioni. Kisha matangazo kupitia lugha ya Kiborana itachukua usukani kuanzia saa 9 hadi saa 2 usiku. Kutufungia jamvi ni Turukana Service watakaopeperusha matangazo yao kuanzia saa 2 usiku hadi saa 6 usiku. KBC Eastern Service inapatikana Lodwar na maeneo yaliyo karibu kupitia 98.3 FM. Na kwa wasikilizaji wa Burji, Rendile na Borana waliomo Marsabit na maeneo jirani, KBC Eastern Service inapatikana kwa mita bendi 98.7 FM.
And to be the good servants of our people of Kenya. Bless this as we take, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
You may kindly take your seats. Your Excellency, the President of this great nation, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Your Excellency, the First Lady, Mama Rachel Ruto. Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. Your Excellency, the spouse to the Deputy President, Pastor Dorcas. The Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Speaker of the National Assembly and the Senate, the President of the Senate, Burundi Parliament, the Right Honorable Lord Michael Hastings, UK House of Lords, Members of Parliament, Governors, Cabinet Secretaries, visiting ministers from various countries, Principal Secretaries, Captains of Industries, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, sir, with your permission, allow me to now call on Honorable Samuel Chepkonga, Member of Parliament for Naikboi, to come and guide us on the rest of the program. Karibu.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and praise the Lord. Breakfast is now to be served, and then we will proceed thereafter. I thank you very much.